On April 24, 1964, near Socorro, New Mexico, a police officer witnessed an egg-shaped craft and two small humanoids. The extraordinary encounter drew a Project Blue Book investigation by the Air Force, which judged the testimony credible but offered no conclusive identification. The case endures as a standout in UFO lore: the mysterious craft, the tiny occupants, and the scorched desert ground that bore witness to the event. Dive into the detailed account to learn more. I stood on the shoulder of a lonely desert road outside Socorro, the city lights like distant pearls behind me, the land vast and mute. The wind bent the sage, and a chill found my bones. In that stillness, fear tangled with awe, and a stubborn thread of history tugged at my heart. This night would not be ordinary. I snapped to attention as the radio rasped with a strange signal, an unusual light near the road ahead. I eased the cruiser onto the dirt, the engine sighing, dust lifting behind me. Heat teased my face, ozone prickled my senses, and I knew my patrol would become something I could not quite name. Before me stood the source of the glow, an egg-shaped craft, pale and gleaming as if carved from moonlight, resting on the waste-strewn soil. Beside it loomed two small humanoids, slender and still, their outfits dark as a moonless night. I felt my heartbeat drum in my ears, as if the desert itself were listening. A hatch slid open with a whisper of air, and the thing seemed to breathe. I moved closer, keeping my pistol steady, my breath shallow. The ground around it bore scorched patches, as if the earth itself had reached out and touched the unknown. The two beings watched with those calm, unfathomable eyes. I spoke, though I could not tell if they understood English or Spanish or any human sound. The air tasted of copper and ozone. Heat rose from the craft in waves. The desert's hush pressed in, and for a breath I felt the weight of every witness who had ever looked to the sky and asked, "What is this?" One of them moved just enough to catch the glow, and I studied their faces, large, dark eyes, a visage that seemed both childlike and ancient. The other shifted slightly, and the craft hummed, not with machinery but with a strange life. They did not gesture, yet a pressure pressed against my thoughts. I steadied my nerve and spoke again, voice flat with professional caution. "I am Lonnie Zamora, Socorro Police." The response, if any, was a silence so complete it felt physical. The ship's edge glowed brighter, and then the whole thing tilted, a sigh of power lifting it from the ground. It rose in an arc, leaving a whisper of dust and heat behind. The beings stepped back, their eyes confirming a mutual, unspoken farewell as the craft gained speed. In a blink, the glow vanished and the night reclaimed the desert. I stood numb, mind racing, until the sound of my radio punctured the air. I hurried to recheck the ground and found two patch-like scorch marks, about a yard apart, clean enough to tell the story but stubborn enough to demand a question mark. The sage burned, the air still, and the wind carried away and left me with a memory that refused to settle. I reported to dispatch, breath ragged. What I had seen could not be explained by a car or a balloon, not by any wave of light I knew. Some men would snicker, others would listen. I kept the memory tight, counting the seconds until a duty-edged sleep would swim back. That night I slept poorly, the desert murmuring in my ear as if the stars themselves spoke. In daylight I moved through the town crowd but carried a private gravity, an encounter that stretched my sense of law, science, and ordinary life, as if the universe had leaned in to listen. Months later, the Air Force took interest. Project Blue Book examined my report and called me credible, yet could not identify the craft or its occupants. The end result felt like a hinge, midway between superstition and science, with the door left mysteriously ajar. Time passed, yet the image did not fade. I walked the same mesa and desert by night, listening for a sound that might explain what I saw, and finding only the wind. The memory kept me honest about the limits of knowledge and the stubbornness of truth, both sometimes radiant and cruel. What this meant to me is not grand theory but quiet truth. I witnessed something beyond ordinary life, and the world kept turning anyway. I learned humility before the cosmos, and I kept faith that some questions deserve to be kept alive, even if answers never arrive.